Welcome to Surf Dudes with Attitude, a podcast about California dreams. And my name is Pete from New York City. Hello, George. What's going on?
In Hershey, Pennsylvania, I'm George Howell. Not just about California dreams. This is about all dreams, Pete. All dreams.
You came out hot. You sounded like a local weather forecaster.
Welcome to your morning drive. Let's talk about the crazy weather.
George, I'll be honest. We've known each other a long time, and you have like, I don't want to compliment you too much, but you have like cable access game show energy. Like that is you. You are the host of a failed, not picked up pilot episode of a game show.
I should have been a game show host, and I remember in high school watching Family Feud going, man, that's got to be like the best job ever.
I mean, you say that, and then one of the hosts of Family Feud hung himself in his garage.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you can't do it forever. I mean, you do 12 episodes a day. You know, how much do you really care about the Fullerton family?
I mean,
your job is to wear a suit and hit on someone's wife all day. Come on.
I mean, that's been a thing. I don't think Richard Karn, who played Al Borland on Home Improvement, I don't think he was creepy with the women, right? I think he came in to be a more wholesome face of the Family Feud franchise.
Yeah, probably. I got confused. I thought you were talking about Dawson. That guy's been ruined for me and from Family Feud because I saw Running Man first.
Yeah. I mean, is Al Borland still on Family Feud?
I think so. Is it?
This is definitely what
he replaced Steve Harvey, right?
Yeah. Yes. No, I think Steve Harvey's still on. You know what? This is definitely not what our fans are interested in. They want to hear about California dreams, but I am prepping myself because this is one of the worst episodes that we've seen of California dreams. So I don't really want to talk about it. So
let's just repress a whole bunch of things here. Like instead of working through it in therapy and trying to heal yourself, let's just bury this deep down and put a couple shots of whiskey on top of it.
I agree. I agree completely. So anyway, we have a special guest with us. Zach is not here this week, but we have one of a great friend of mine, a fantastic musician from Baltimore. His name is Dave. And he's joining us here on the podcast. Hello, Dave. What is up?
Hey, what's up, Pete? Hey, George.
Hey, Dave. Before we start talking about repressing memories, talk to us about your band.
Well, I have a couple bands, but my one band, Def Scene, we've been playing with Peat and U-Bread Raptors for, God, I don't know, like 10 years or something now?
It's been at least, put a ring on it. It's been at least 10 years, I think.
Yeah. I'm sorry I haven't put a ring on it yet. I apologize. But
we're still living in sin.
Next time. But yeah, we've been through a lot of really great shows and a lot of like shared trauma experience of just the worst possible shows.
That's
you can
true.
Imagine.
We've played some shitty festivals together.
You could say me and Pete are pretty trauma bonded by our experiences in the music industry at this point, I guess.
Yes, and every time we have an iffy show in the general area that Dave lives, I'm like, which band we should get on to split negative money is Def Scene.
Right.
You're also another band called Black Lung that's a little more active right now. Yep. And they're very heavy, not for the faint of heart. Your kids are gonna love it, but you will probably not.
Yeah, it's like heavy metal, psychedelic stuff. So kind of in the same vein as Def Scene, but obscure enough that it's not super popular and not obscure enough that we're doing okay. And we're selling some tickets here and there. So
hey, it's nothing to sneeze at. You just got back from a European tour. That's
true.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yep,
and,
that's been super cool.
We can definitely tell war stories about going on the road together. And dealing with some of the same shitty people
in the encore episode.
Yeah. So anyway, this is Surf Dudes with Attitude. We talk about California dreams. Just right off the bat, Dave, have you ever heard of this show before I guilted you on to being a guest host?
No, but I did watch some, and it's fantastic. It's just great. I love finding out about these types of shows that I had no idea existed, and I just wonder, like, where the people are now that were in that show, and it's crazy. Well, so you said you've had some people on, right?
Yes, you're asking the right questions. We've had
amazing.
Jake was on. He's
Anthony Frankie.
Yeah, he lasts throughout the end of the series, and he's kind of like, I guess, like the biggest star from it. But I've met the cast, so I do know what they're up to. We have been trying to get more of them on the show, but some of them do not like us. So we just got to win them over, or we pay for them at an auction and then they have to come on the show. I think that's the only other way that we can possibly do it.
Normally we take the lens while watching the show of doing it from a music perspective and tie in music experience with what's going on in the episode. But this episode does not have any music. So
it almost does.
It almost does.
It nearly has
close. He got to the 4 count. He got to the 2 or 3 and then nothing. So sometimes sometimes we're surprised and we get extra music. And then other times like this, it's like, we can kind of tell that this is going to be a rough one. So I wanted to force you to watch it. So hopefully you will get another episode in the future. It's a little more band oriented, but we're still gonna get through it. If anybody wants to kind of check us out or what the podcast is about, just surfdudeswithattitude.com. If you want to support the show on Patreon, where we have encore episodes, uncut feeds, exclusive videos, us learning songs from the show, that's CaliforniaDreamsPodcast.com. And if you want to write to us, it's surfdudeswithattitude@gmail.com. Did I get everything, George?
You certainly did, Pete.
Killing it. I'm killing it. I really wanted to talk about music this week because I'm being forced to play a wedding on my birthday this week, and it's I have to learn 75 songs for this wedding. So in the middle of learning all that, I watched this episode hoping to cleanse my palate of bad music, and I didn't get one iota of that. So I'm hoping to still bring the thunder, though.
Will you be playing any California Dreams songs for the wedding?
You jest, but I brought that up to my cellist if we could do one, because it's 75 songs. We're literally going to be playing for about 4 to 5 hours. I was like, can we just throw in one of our songs or California Dreams songs? Like, they're not going to know. Like, between cocktail hour and the reception. And she's very stringent. She's like, no, we have a contract. It stipulates that no California Dreams songs will be played at this wedding, or it will. I don't know.
I mean, you should at least throw in like some This Time or something like that.
They won't even know. Dave, I'm a huge sellout. We're using backing tracks for this wedding. It's the first time I'll ever be playing with backing tracks. So
wow. 75 songs with backing tracks too. Wow.
I know. Well,
so is it you and Tara?
Yeah, my cellist and I, we're gonna be playing like prelude, processional, cocktail hour, reception, and maybe the consummation later.
Yeah,
we don't know. It's everything. So
if you're lucky, if you're lucky.
So anyway, without further ado. We're gonna jump into this episode. We usually have a catchphrase here, Dave. If you could say it, it's right before Matt usually says it. Right before they start a song, he says, "Let's do it," and then he counts 1, 2, 3, 4 before anybody's ready to start the song. So, if that's your one job,
let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, that's great. I wasn't ready. Okay, so
let's do it.
I don't know if you can feel the difference here, Dave, but we are firmly in 1994 territory with this episode. We're talking about episode 15, season 2, called Can't Buy Me Love, and it came out January 8th, 1994. So I distinctly remember New Year's Eve, 93 into 94. And I remember asking my friend who was, I guess, 10 years old, and I was like, how's 1993 for you? And he was like, it sucked. And he sounded like a divorced dad that had just been through some shit. And looking back, I'm like, how bad could this his life has been? But maybe he didn't know about this show.
Yeah,
that would upset me too. But this is our first episode in 94. This doesn't mean a lot to you, but to us, because we've been in the dredges of 1993 for the past year here on Surf Dudes with Attitude. So this is huge. I get to put a new tab in my inflation calculator that I'm using constantly, and we used it a lot for this. So can you give me your overall thoughts about this episode? What did you think?
I honestly, I didn't know what I was getting into when you sent me the link. Definitely Saved by the Bell vibes.
Sure.
I think my biggest takeaway is I just love the football coach, or the all sports coach. Whatever, is he coaching all the sports? I'm not sure.
Probably because they don't have a budget for a scoreboard. I also imagine they don't have the salary to pay more than one person for one sport.
Right.
So
well, that's
these kids all look rich. All these kids look rich, but I imagine that the staff at this school at PCH, I think it is, they are underpaid and overworked. So you're right. I think he's just an all-purpose coach. But you loved him the best, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I thought he was. I just love that all of his lines are just football euphemisms, no matter what the situation.
Sure.
So I was laughing watching that.
Well, I mean, the guy you're talking about, Charles Cypher, is an iconic horror actor. He's a character actor. Yeah, he's from Halloween. He's the sheriff in that. He's from The Fog. Assault on Precinct 13. So he was definitely in the John Carpenter region. He was also in Major League, so he's also there.
Oh.
But he literally died a couple of weeks ago. Right before he could get on and talk about his stint. Sorry. He's been in a shitload of stuff, like over 100 films. So good on this guy. He did look familiar, and he brought it. He showed up to work. We're always talking about in this show, the writing is terrible.
Oh yeah.
But they do somehow get these character actors to come on and show up for fucking work. They actually, they nail it, hit it out of the park. I'm just going to be doing a lot of sports metaphors here today too.
Yeah, just total, knocked it out of the park, like you said. So my other thought was, did you ever do this in elementary school or high school or whatever, where there was a human auction?
No,
that seemed very.
So
we're going to take troubling.
We're going to take the episode beat by beat, but it's this. What you said about Saved by the Bell is very, very accurate, and Saved by the Bell actually had this pretty much this clone of an episode. California Dreams was a clone of Saved by the Bell in the fact that it was using some of the same sets, same production team, a lot of the same writers and directors. They were trying to capitalize off of it. And they were trying to make it like a Monkey situation where they would actually put this band on the road. And then it was just cheaper to just make a fucking TV show, a really cheaply made TV show. So that's how we get California Dreams. So we've seen this before where they are using a lot of the same plots, but these are also sitcom plot tropes that it's used in a lot of shitty 90s shows. And I both love it and hate it. It's the reason why I started this podcast is because I can't not be enamored with it, but it's also painful to sit through. This episode was tough to get through. I kept every time I paused to write a note or to do my inflation calculator, I was like, there's still 12 minutes left of this. How? There's a lot of set changes. But then it brought me joy to know that I was going to torture 2 other people with it. So I'm just fascinated by it, honestly. Being a first-time viewer is pretty. Zach had never heard of the show. our co-host, and he also never went to high school, so he has no idea what any of this shit is. Like, so, but we're finding there's so like all these kids seem like they're homeschooled, and
it seems pretty like most early '90s shows where the high school kids, like some of them look like they're in their mid-20s.
Definitely some greasing going on.
Yeah. So it did. Yeah. So some of them look like a high school age. Some of them definitely are like, okay, what's this 25, 26
Yeah, we definitely we usually look up like how old these people are. Like when we get to it, the star sports hero is definitely pushing 30 years old.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're gonna start at California Dreams version of the Max. It's called Sharky's, and everything happens there. Now, when you saw the arcade machines in the back, that's usually where they have the stage set up and California Dreams plays. They basically have a residency. It's the only band that plays there. Okay. I'm bummed you didn't get to see any of the band stuff in this episode, but like it happens, and I think there's definitely like a cognitive shift where they wanted to have this show focus less on the music and more on the teenage hijinks, because that's what people tune in for. Right. Not knowing that 30 years later, a 40-year-old man would be really upset.
Yeah. I know. We're here for the music. God damn it.
But a lot of the music sounds like the theme song. So it's on that caliber.
Theme song is glorious.
I have a cassette tape that I could just lend you if you want to listen to the rest of it. So
yeah, maybe we can start a cover band, you know?
So to answer your question, at Sharky's, they're coming in hot with the plot, basically. They're like, hey, Tiff is going there. She's the blonde girl. She's the bass player of the band. She's like, do any of you guys want to sign up to be servants? To answer your question, no. This has never happened, but this is something I remember in a lot of sitcoms. I think Family Matters did it as well. The strange thing to me that throughout the whole thing, like the Saved by the Bell one was about, it was more of like you're buying somebody to be your Valentine. In this one, there's zero sexual tension. Like you're literally just getting a servant to do chores.
Yeah, for like a week too.
Okay, so I broke down the numbers of that later that we're gonna get in. We're gonna get into inflation and all. It's odd that somebody would want to sign up for this. It's even more bizarre that somebody would want to sign up for it because the school needs a new scoreboard. That is insane to me that anybody cares that much about school spirit, and why they can't just have somebody with the flip one. Who gives a shit?
Well, what they raised like $150 total dollars, you know?
Okay, I mean, I have a whole breakdown, so you just hold your pants on. I do. I take it very seriously here on Servitude with Attitude, but I found it super problematic and upsetting that the first person they asked to be a servant was Tony, and
that's this the first thing I noticed. I was like, holy shit.
And he's in the still on IMDb, and it just says servant. It's so stupid. They don't shy away from like racism on this show. Like they had like a very special episode in the first seirson about racism. So I guess they feel that they addressed it, but I'm like, this is pretty dense, guys. First of all, I don't understand. Like, I'm trying to think of the plot points and like how you could have done this without getting the entire school involved. But if the school wasn't involved, then the coach wouldn't be involved, and then you wouldn't have had a good time watching it. So maybe they know something we don't.
Right. And it gets back to your early point that, you know, it's a low budget school. Clearly they need to do they need to sell some humans into servitude.
We've only seen like one classroom throughout the entire, like the whole first season, no school at all. And then the second season we see, but it's basically like a one classroom Amish school. So it's possible that there is only like 40 kids that go to this school. So anyway, Tony is ambivalent about becoming a servant, but then he gets talked into it because he wants this girl, I think her name is Nicole, to buy him. Tony's usually paired up with any other African-American girl. It's just what happens. The only time he wasn't was when it was the racism episode. So it's like you guys are trying, so I'll give you credit, but it's still very predictable.
Yeah.
So Sly is not about this, but he wants to buy. Sly is their manager. He's the sleazy, creepy one.
Oh, so he's not in the band.
He's not in the band. I was hoping that you wouldn't even get any semblance of the band, so you could guess what people play. But they kind of did show it at one scene. So
yeah, I mean, I figured, football jock guy was going to be like, shreddy lead guitar player or something, or singer or something. So I think I was right.
So leather jacket guy is Jake. He's the guitar player. Jacket. He came in the first episode of this season. He was not in the first season at all. This whole show was about the Garrison family. It was between Matt, the skinny dorky guy, and he was like the rock star in the band, and his sister. And his sister, she bailed out of the show early this season, and then his family all died, but they still use the house. So Matt is sometimes on guitar, sometimes on keyboard. Sam came in. She's the keyboard player now. She's sometimes just a singer. Tony's always played drums. Tiff's always played bass. But Sly's real problematic, but he gets them all their shows. So I'm really torn. He is probably a good manager for this teenager band, but the lawsuits and the canceling would be coming aplenty if this was taking place now.
He did say I didn't really get the like the idea that he would be a manager for the band, because the whole episode is just dealing with his like issues with like his dating problems, and he's getting pep talks from what's his name, the guitar guy, Jake. Yeah,
guitar guy. Yeah.
Jake is like, pep talking him the whole time and like holding his hand through the whole episode. So you don't really get the impression that
it's an odd episode for you to jump in, because that never happens. Jake doesn't really like Sly, but he knows that they need him because Sly gets them shows, and Sly gets them well-paying shows. Like sometimes $200, sometimes $500. But with inflation, that's like a
1994 money.
Yeah, for real. And so I was hoping you could see some of that, because sometimes they accidentally hit a really good band topic, and then other times like this, we get inane plots, and then jokes like this where Sly says like, what did Jake say? He's like, "Yo, you couldn't sell yourself to a cannibal." Yeah, and then Sly's like, "Cannibals don't have money."
I wrote that down actually, because I was like, "That's not a joke." Actually, like, there's no. Doesn't make any sense. Let's try
to dissect it. Does that mean cannibals are eating other people because they're so poor and that's all they can? Because that's a dark joke.
That's pretty. I mean, that's a stretch. I mean, to think that anyone would, get that as like an implied.
I think if anything, we know how much people cost because of this episode. Like it's way more to buy a person than it is to buy an apple. So
it's like the ultimate, like getting picked last for the dodgeball team kind of situation, but it's actually monetized and not just like, oh, you were picked last. It's like, no, you're worth $5 actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your best friend's worth, $150.
Well, I mean, Tiff in this scene, she has this fringe jacket, which is like out of control. It looks so good. We love the fashion on this show.
Yeah.
And they always bring it.
Sly had a good shirt. Sly had a shirt.
All shirts. And the vests, it's all bright. It's all block colors.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a specific...
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Go ahead.
The Sly's vest, when they're in like the cafeteria scene or something, or whatever that place is.
Sharky's, yes.
Yeah, Sharky's, yeah. And he gets the cup of water thrown on him. That's an excellent outfit.
Yeah, let's hope that outfit is not ruined, because it is banging. You should know that in this episode, so speaking of Tiff, so Jake and Tiffany are together. They're a couple, but when the plot calls for it, they are not a couple. And nary the twain shall meet. They never reference that they were together at some point, or when Jake is openly talking about other women, Tiffany does not get upset. Tiffany does. If they have a progressive open relationship, Tiffany is not taking advantage of it. So it's more of a
very modern, romance.
It's very. I would call it polyamory. Like she's definitely tolerating Jake's harem, and that's unfortunate. Anyway,
he did have a harem in this episode too.
If ever he did, it was this episode. The first episode we saw him, we are introduced to his character as not a bully, but everyone's afraid of him. But he is walking in with two girls, and they said, "Oh no, that's Jake Summers from another school," which means he imported these girls with him to this new school. So, and now it's exponentially growing.
That's pretty normal in the 90s, from what I understand.
So, we're gonna jump to the hallway, and we meet Juliet. Or Julie Pruitt, who kind of looks like his Bobo Cameron Diaz. She definitely looks really old for the part, which is funny because the last episode we had somebody that looked old for the part, and it was actually because they were an undercover cop that was in the school because they were busting a fake ID ring, and they actually had music on that episode. You should just go back and watch that. I think you and your wife would love it.
Yeah, I definitely will.
So Julie's not having it. She doesn't like Sly, and she's like, I wish you were more like Robbie. And Robbie is the all-American guy. He's captain of the baseball team, soccer team, and basketball team. And this fucker is short. Not a short king, but he's short. He's not short enough to be a basketball team captain.
There's only 40 people in the high school, though.
That's true.
How many captains can you have?
I mean, so this happened to Saved by the Bell too, where Zach was captain of the volleyball team when it called for it, the basketball team, and the baseball team in an early episode. So it was we never saw them play. We never saw the fields. We saw them coming into the locker room with their equipment on, but that's about it. So these parents must have a ton of money. You're spending a lot of money per season on these scrimmages and shit like that. So I'm bitter. I wasn't allowed to join organized sports. Were you in any sports?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I played baseball and
you look like a baseball player. That tracks.
I should have kept with baseball. I tried to do some soccer in high school, and then in my sophomore year I was just on the bench. So I just quit because
you got benched.
Oh yeah. It was me and my friend he was a bass player and I was just picking up guitar. We were my high school was small, so everyone there was no tryouts. It's oh, you want to play? Yes, you're on the team. But there was 3 people that would be on the bench that wouldn't be active in the field, and that was always me.
So you would
I was not good. Yeah,
you would have not gotten on the team if they were more stringent about T-ball rules.
Right. And I didn't want to go into junior year and be still JV bench warmer. So I just didn't do that anymore.
Well, you joined an instrumental weird band instead, where all the popular chicks are.
Yep. That's
so. Yeah. So after we meet Robbie, we meet the coach, which was your favorite character.
Oh yeah.
He's coming over. This guy needs his scoreboard so badly. I don't know what was happening. There should have been one throwaway line.
He made a pretty ridiculous concession to Jake for for Jake to sell himself. At the a year-long hall pass, which means he was
Jake
I'll give you a hall pass for a day.
Hall pass.
And he was no, coach. And he was well, I'll give you one for a week. And he was hall pass for a year and your parking spot and I don't know, maybe something else. And the coach was it's a touchdown or something like that.
Yeah.
It's
yes,
what?
You love the euphemisms. But what did this scoreboard look like that it was so this is such a dire need for this man. He's not a complete person without this new scoreboard. And I like that so this show does not have a lot of jokes. So when they do happen, we have to acknowledge them. He goes up to Sam and Sam is I didn't drill peepholes in the boys' locker room, which I thought was kind of daring, a little hot. Sam is a real horn dog, which we appreciate because it's a gender swap thing. She's boy crazy. Yep. And then Jake was like, I didn't know she was your daughter. So I don't know how the daughter is in this situation, but that's it. We have to get that out of the way. These people tried their best.
Yeah.
And that's that. So anyway, we're going to go to the auditorium. And I say that because I think we've only seen the auditorium once ever in this show. So this is the second time. This is a big deal here on Surf Dudes with Attitude. And this is the same day. Okay. So, because they said earlier in the episode, do you guys want to try out today or whatever? They already have shirts made. The processing and production in this show is outstanding. Like they have banners made like over the course of a marking like a school lunch period, basically. So they have these shirts. Everybody's in there. There's, I don't know, I counted about 12 people that were servants, and they said you are somebody's slave basically for the next. We're assuming this is Monday, so for the next 4.5 days. You are their servants until the Freedom Dance.
Yeah.
At the end of the week, which is like an Emancipation Proclamation kind of thing.
It's very troubling stuff.
Do you think that this was the thing in like, think of the writers. Do you think they're all old white dudes? Do you think this was something that happened in their youth?
I mean, so the closest I can think is like, you know, you've seen like some rom-coms where it's like, oh, there's like a date auction. Like you could go home with this guy as your date. And it's like a bunch of old ladies, you know, like auctioning or, you know, bidding on like young hunks or whatever.
Sure.
But like, it seems weird in a high school context. And also the implication of you're a servant for a week. You have to do whatever this other high school student says you have to do.
Maybe like neither of us have kids. Maybe weird shit is going on in high school, because I guess we're at the age now where like we could have kids that were entering high school. So it's possible, but it just seems like an ideal situation to get drama going. And I guess that's what writing is. So anyway, so Tony's up first. Matt accidentally, I don't know, bids on him. Matt is, bless his heart, he's an actual musician. We've talked to him before. He's a nice guy, but like when he tries to do physical comedy, it never lands. And he's the kind of the first person to say, he's like, I'm a musician, I'm not an actor, it's just something I did as a kid. So Matt ends up buying Tony accidentally for $35, which is $73 today. Do you want to know the breakdown of what they would need to get this scoreboard? Because I have all that information. Yeah. I'm just so ready. Okay. Did
I miss that in the episode? Did they say how much they needed for the scoreboard? Or did they was it just sort of there was no target?
No, they didn't. But guess what? Guess who looked it up? Guess who looked up what a scoreboard cost in 1994? All right. So a low end scoreboard measuring at 8 feet by 4 feet cost about $2,125, which is about $4,400 today. So it's like your basic standard stuff. It's basically what they showed at the end of the episode. So I kind of cross-referenced to what that looked like. And then I went on some scoreboard websites, which there was a lot, by the way. I assume there'd be like one company that put them out, but there's like dueling. There's some competition. There's no monopoly in this, so nobody worry. So that is the average in 1993, 1994 when this was filmed.
Yeah, so they didn't even come close.
Yes. So based on how much money that they actually got, or how much Tony got, the average student would probably be $20, right? Would you think that's correct? $20 is about $45. So
somewhere in there.
You would have to get 106 students to be auctioned off at least $20 each to get that number. Now,
well, they only auctioned like 3 people. I mean,
okay,
there was a lot more people in shirts than who they auctioned.
Do you know how many there was? There was 11 people in those shirts. All right. So I'm going to subtract. I'm going to do some math here. So Tiff poor Tiff at the end, she is bought for $5.
Yeah,
we know that. Tony is bought for $35. Jake gets bought for $200 from the 3 cheerleaders, and Julie gets bought for $100. So that are the people we know. So you take that out, that is $340 from 2125. You are left with $1785. Now, the remaining 7 students, if you divide that number, on average, they would have to be bought for $255 a piece.
So our main characters were the cheap ones. And
yes.
all the other ones that they
all the other ones.
Wow. They filmed it, they just didn't include it in the
adjusted for inflation today. That's $514. I don't know who you would pay for that, but the average amount. So from that time until Friday at the dance is 105 hours of servitude. So they're basically getting $1.43 an hour. So that's great. That like you pay that much, you get this much servitude until the end of the week. So that is my homework. That's
very good.
What I did today.
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
Thank you. So that's the date auction. This next scene. I just want to reiterate, none of this is sexual. They had a easy 90s joke where Matt could have accidentally bought Tony, and then he would have had to take him to the dance.
Right,
you know?
right.
But it that didn't happen. Yeah, sometimes this show takes the high road, and I think sometimes they just you think that they would have taken it.
It was just Tony was like pissed at him for ruining his chances with the girl that he wanted to be with.
Yeah. Poor Nicole didn't get. I mean, I don't know why you couldn't just ask this person out since she's very much into you. I don't know why we have to bring some kind of arbitrary bartering flesh trade into the mix, but I'm old fashioned.
Tiff makes the rules here, so
which is bizarre.
She says, "Nope."
Very strange that she's so into this.
Yeah, she was like, "No trades," or whatever she said.
Yeah, no refunds, no trades.
No refunds. Yeah.
So we're gonna jump to the hallway, and Sly is trying to get Julie. She's not having it. He's totally nagging her the entire episode after this because his charms aren't working, and like. Sly, he casts a very wide net. He tries everything. He's so sleazy. He's very upfront about his sleaziness. So I mean, credit, I guess, for being transparently douchey. But he did say something. What's that?
Are we on the restaurant scene yet, or no?
We're going to the next scene at Sharky's, and I love that you call it a restaurant.
Not Sharky's. I'm talking about.
Not yet. So before that, I just wanted to say there's one thing that Sly said that was really upsetting. He said, his new plan is to nag Julie, and he said in no time she'll be waxing the Winkle wagon, which
I didn't catch that. That's
an ulcer in my throat. Flare up. It was. I mean. I would think a writer in there would know the double entendre, but you never know with these fucking people. So before we get to the expensive restaurant, we're in the garage, and I'm
right.
The cheerleaders are following Jake around. They're rhyming everything. Is Jake having sex with these girls? Like he's the servant, right? So what is he having to do for them?
He gave them each a kiss. That was his duty to them.
But there's 3 of them. That's a $33 kiss. Is that with $66 kiss? That's what's going on.
Well, you assume it's more than once, but maybe they don't really. All we see. I don't think the cheerleaders say anything the entire show that isn't cheered in a rhyme. So we really don't know what their intentions are with him, and he's just upset at their peppiness. And it's trying to get away from them by the end, but it is a ridiculous 3 characters.
How much would you pay for my kiss? Like
me?
How many hundreds of dollars would you pay?
How many? Oh, it has to be in the hundreds.
Well, come on. Let's be honest here.
Well,
would it buy? How many scoreboards would my kisses buy over the course of 4.5 days? Is what I'm really asking. I know you're speechless. I get it.
I am speechless. I don't know how to
You're doing the math in your head. Thank you. So so we don't get any music in this episode, but they're about to rehearse, and we were like edgy, and I was like really wanted to hear this. This is the first time ever, that we have heard a bass sound come from Tiffany. Now, she's just yes. So she's sitting with the bass, and it's obviously not her playing, but I think this was the take that they had with her just kind of like fucking around, and then they're like, "Oh crap, we have to write it." So I don't know, some PA or something behind the scenes was definitely like in the recording studio, like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
and that's like, it.
Yeah.
And so Tiffany is usually the worst one at miming her instrument. So I was very impressed to hear anything. And this is I'm scratching. I want any type of music in this, and we almost get it.
I was trying to look on their walls of like the practice space to kind of get a feel for like what their inspiration was. I think I saw, was it a Tom Petty poster on the wall?
Definitely saw a Tom Petty poster.
Okay.
When we used to have Matt's room, we used to show Matt's room upstairs, and now we're not really doing that because we're killing off his whole family. It was a different Tom Petty poster. There's 2 REM posters. We had a whole thing that we had to cut out. It was like a 10-minute investigative thing where I was so sure I saw a Typo Negative poster as well, and it turned out it was a really early REM poster where Michael Stipe actually had hair. So there's Beatles posters in there. I
saw the Beatles one, yeah, but I think it's just George and it looked like George and John just sitting on a stoop, or maybe I was confusing that with something else.
They're just like fuck Ringo in that moment.
Yeah.
Matt loves the Beatles. He loves U2. So that's probably lurking about. It's basically what a set dresser in their 40s would think. What are teenagers into? Michael W. Smith, of course. Right, yeah. You know, they love Christian contemporary on this show. So yeah, we start to count. We're almost about to hear a rehearsal, and then the dryer goes off, and Sam is now power hungry and making Tiff do all this work. But she got her at $5. So like, think of that. Think of the hourly wage for $5 over 4.5 days. Like,
yeah, that's sweatshop rate wages.
It's your homework, sir.
Yeah, and I think you see her in the background just like folding the laundry after they cancel their one possible take on the song that they're about to play so that she can go fold the laundry.
I think it's like an earlier episode in the first season, but it's mentioned that they're kind of like they kind of practice every day. So, and I think the writers just kind of ran out of ideas of like, what can we make this band do? But like, I could think of like 10 things off the top of my head, like make the band play the auction or something. Like you have like a dance. There's a dance. There's a literal fucking dance. Like have the band play it. Or at least like half a song. Stop with the hand job stuff. Like we're adults now.
Or if all the band members were the servants, and in order to earn their freedom, they had to play the dance.
There it is. See? Dave, get on this show. Get a time machine and write for this show. It's more lucrative than music, I promise.
Yeah.
So as you said, we are going to this fancy restaurant. Sly has taken it upon himself to woo her by showing how sophisticated he can be. Now, this is awful. This is so silly. This is Jake's idea, I guess. This is his idea, and for him to help enact this plan, he's going to be the violin player at the restaurant. I guess that was the only other music we got, right?
Yeah, it was like really on like super, I don't know, maybe it's just the speakers I have, but the violin was just like super loud in the restaurant when they were just like, it's like, and he wasn't even by their table. Like he was over by some other like random.
So great acoustics in there is what you're saying.
Meal. Right. And yeah. And then she's just like, yeah, this is really great music. It's super nice. It's just like,
Is she still wearing the servant's shirt?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, I was remembering that
he's wearing like a shoulder padded like purple sport jacket or something. Maybe that's also Jake's or whatever. He's kind of setting up the whole thing for him, I guess.
This whole restaurant is ridiculous. Like no restaurant expects you to speak the language on the menu and gets upset. So we're not even going to talk about that because it's silly kid stuff. I was more wondering the scene, like this girl is like shitting all over Sly. Like she's being so mean. Yeah. And there was a part of me that's like, this is how kinks are formed. Like he's gonna get this humiliation fetish for this because he's like, somebody's never made me feel this way because Sly's a sociopath. Like we've seen through countless episodes that like, he doesn't care how people feel. He doesn't understand why people feel bad sometimes. So, he was mean to her first. Now she's like doubling down and being super mean to him. So this doesn't work. Jake is apparently really playing. I mean, not really playing. I was fully expected him to have like a tape recorder, but he's like, oh, my parents made me take violin first. And like, if that's the case, you fucking rip on violin. Like play that in the band. Your band would be way more popular.
Yeah. And then he's like, yeah, I hate violin. I'd rather be playing like this. And he's just like, and just like rips like a guitar style solo on violin, which then upsets the suddenly the waiter then realizes that he's like, wait a minute, you're not the regular violinist. Get out of here. Which is like, wait, how did you not?
I love the trope of the snooty French maitre d'. It's literally in every movie that has a French restaurant. They're always dicks. They take their job way too seriously, and they all sound like Pepe Le Pew.
And they all say "Sacre bleu," which he did say.
Oh, yeah, but you know what? The other thing is in this scene when Sly actually asks for something on the menu, it actually I put in Google Translate. It actually does mean your mother is a cow. So
was he reading that on the menu, or
I don't know. I mean, it sounds like that was what it was on. I was very surprised because like somebody had to speak this before the internet. So somebody had to like have a French dictionary or speak French in the writer's room behind the scenes. So.
They did say that he was like, I can't speak French. And he's like, or Jake says, aren't you in French class in school or something like that? So maybe the only French he picked up was like slurs. So he didn't know what it meant or something. I don't know. You're
already investing more time in the writing than the writers did, and I love that. So we go to the hallway, and speaking of Sly's shirts, he has a shirt that says "This boy is different," and so I went on a deep dive. And
what is that? What is that on his shirt?
There's a really good website called Worn on Film, and like you can find there's very dedicated niche people out there that like catalog what everybody has worn on film. And it's apparently a vintage like Fruit of the Loom t-shirt that was popular around this time. So it was just one of their mascots, I guess. I don't know.
I was like, I couldn't really tell because like the way he was standing, but I could tell it said like, this boy is different or something.
Yes, that's what it says.
I was like, is that E.T. on there? Or like,
it's just a guy with a pompadour. You can look it up, like it's. Oh, okay. He was in different poses and stuff, but it always said this boy is different. So I don't know. Is that like a early awesome. Coded homosexual thing? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's better than what, like co-ed, naked, no fear, Billabong. Like these are things that were popular around the time. But Sly, I guess, because of his shirts giving him newfound confidence, he's like, you know what? F this B. She's being super mean to me. She's telling everybody in school these rumors about me. And what's the rumor exactly? That like Sly tried his best on a date.
Right. I was like,
do well.
She's like, hey, dork, way to bring me to a French restaurant. And like, what?
Way to give it your all and attempt to pronounce something in French and offer to pay for me, you asshole. So Sly takes on, he gets very serious. Sly does not get serious a lot, but when he was like, time is now to like say something, he takes on this bully And he basically says the most generic, like, you feel bad about yourself, so you tear other people down. And then all of her friends are like, you know what? He's right.
They just like one by one walk away in disgust. Like, wow, now that he says it, it really rings true. That was
he does not have a conscience like this, and so it's odd to see him kind of act up and
so
talk.
This is very out of character. Is very out of character.
This whole episode is out of character. There's no reason. There's no way like Tiffany would be behind this flesh trade. There's no reason Tony would be a jerk to Matt. Like Tony's kind of like the nicest one. Matt's a dork. As we see in the next scene, he makes a Spartacus joke when they're planning to revolt. Like that's, of course he would. And Sly is like he's always creepy. So Sly is the closest to actual, but like in the scene where he's taking on the bully, it doesn't make any sense. But she's affected by it, and everybody's affected by being a servant, I guess. And so that they I don't know. I guess they hatch a plan for revenge, which when we finally see it come to fruition, it's disappointing to say the least. But we are going to the dance, and I thought this line was ridiculous. Nicole comes up to Tony and says, "Is Tony Wick's school for making out still taking applications?" And he says he has one for teacher's pet, which that's not even coded. That's just like, you are my student. I will be sucking face with you as soon as class is over.
It was pretty gross.
I kind of weirded out that this is a school dance, but nobody is dressed up. Did you notice that? People are in their servant shirts. I get that, but like, with their slave masters, they should be.
I guess the writers were probably just like, well, we need to make sure that if you're just tuning in, that you know who the servants are.
Sure,
so
I guess that.
Leave them in the shirts,
I guess it's a costume thing. They didn't want to pay for like the fancy dresses and shit like that. So, but it seems like a lame ass dance. The dreams aren't playing. I'm upset. And then the only dance that is going on, the coach interrupts to unveil that they got this new scoreboard. Now, they buy it right away. So these kids would have to pony up cash. And then it installed right away, too. The shirt Sly's wearing here looks like a balloon factory. It's the really brightly colored one.
Oh, yeah. He's got just ridiculous outfits. Yeah.
And so after they show the scoreboard, it immediately dies. Ugh. And then I guess they enact their plan for revenge, and it's just silly string. That's fucking literally it. That's
it makes no sense at all. But yeah, I don't really know what to make of that whole ending of that scene.
So are we supposed to surmise that the school dance happened? Like it's already been for 2 hours and now it's over once they unveiled the scoreboard. Like what a lame dance. You go to a dance and then the big finale is not Carrie getting blood all over her, but the scoreboard that you helped buy. That week. I don't know. I don't know. This, and anyway, it just ends. Julie never comes back. The actress that played Julie, this is her last acting gig ever. She's only been in 6 things, but this was it. She was like, I'm going out on a high note and I'm never coming back.
Yeah, she left as the popular one.
I guess whatever Sly said to her, she took to heart. She's like, you know what? Maybe I'll give this a shot. And are we guesstimating here that they're going to give it a shot together? Like, I'm going to let you plant a big wet one on me, which he said that multiple times.
I didn't like that. Yeah. But I guess, I don't know. Maybe that's just, maybe I would have been okay with it in 1994. I don't know. Come on, give me a big wet one. It's like,
I'm gonna try it. Can you do me a favor and try that with your wife tonight without any context?
Sure. Yeah.
Just do it and don't break character, and then see if she'll respond, and then come back on and tell us exactly how it happened. Okay.
I think she's gonna throw a glass of water on my vest if I ask her to do that.
If you were wearing that vest, nobody could say no to you. So anyway, that's the end of the episode. It was a tough 22 minutes to get through. I want to apologize for making you watch that one. I do promise that some episodes
I enjoyed it. I mean, it is for a first time viewing. It was pretty ridiculous, and definitely 90s.
But it's not supposed to be ridiculous. I mean, did you laugh at all?
No, I mean, I laughed at the
absurdity.
Coach. Yeah.
Oh, the coach. You like the coach? Okay.
I just like the coach. I don't know. He just all the euphemisms just left and right. Just
really got to you. I appreciate it. We have these things called LPEs, and it's like laughs per episode, and we're like lucky to clock one genuine laugh at a joke that was made. And then every once in a while they'll surprise me. I'm like, okay, I didn't laugh, but that was well done. I don't know about you, George, but I had a hard time picking something that worked in this episode for me.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm looking at it from, the wrong lens. Maybe if it were 1994, it would be different. But, well, I mean, the whole Sam thing about, peepholes in the men's locker room. It's like
a whole episode on that. That would have been way better.
Well, I mean, is that lame or is that funny? Like in the 90s, that was kind of like a faux pas. That was like that was definitely, like you were saying, gender reversal. Today, kind of not. It's kind of creepy now.
Right.
But also on the other end, like I did think it was funny that I thought the coach was kind of like a real coach. Like I remember, do you remember the football coach in high school chasing around your brother, begging him to join the football team?
Okay, yeah. So this happened to me as well, but not as much. My brother was a bigger guy, and like this coach was like, "I need you. Football is all I have in my life. Okay, yeah. Like I need you on this team," kind of thing. I wasn't sure if he was just trying to motivate kids to like be all they can be, like the army. But like, you're right. I do remember him walking around, hulking around, I should say, and then being like, "I need you as my linebacker." And I was, like, we weren't getting paid at all. And I remember him asking me one time, and I was like, "Look at me. I'm trying to be different here. I'm not going to join the football team. Be social suicide." So
anyway, I don't know. It was funnier than a lot of other episodes, but
what? Really?
I thought so. Yeah. I mean the Italian restaurant or the French restaurant scene, that was pretty funny. That
was it funny? Did you laugh?
Like funny, haha? Yeah, I laughed.
I might have made like a smirk during the episode, but I don't think that there was. I definitely didn't like haha like at any. I didn't laugh out loud at
that would be hilarious if that's how you laughed. If you actually were just like haha.
That's how I laugh, actually.
I mean, I'm really sorry we didn't get you on to talk about all your musical experience, skill, and knowledge, but this is what we're offering this week.
This is clearly more important than that.
But we will talk about all of his musical skill and knowledge in the encore.
That's true. Patrons, stay tuned for a short after show where we're actually going to talk to Dave about what he actually does and how he's my servant for the week, and that's the only reason he's doing this. That's
that's right.
That's the big secret here. So anyway, we sometimes give out awards on this show for like instrument musician stuff, but there was none of that shit here. So we're gonna bypass that. Jake's the only one that played anything, and he didn't really play the violin well. So
that one I could tell he was faking.
Yes, yeah. We asked the actor, like, "Did you ever learn it in solos?" Because some of them actually look kind of convincing. And he's like, I never learned at any of them. I was just kind of good at mimicking, and he was very humble. He was like, I suck at doing that. Don't look at me. But I'm like, I've been doing this a long time. Like, I can kind of tell you weren't playing, like you were playing along to a track, but like it seemed like you actually knew some of those notes. So, and we've tabbed out a couple of the things that he's written, like what he's actually playing, and it's very close. So, but the violin thing, as somebody with a string player in the band, not even close. So, you can come back on, Jay, and apologize for your performance there.
So for the violin scene, was it funnier what they had Jake do there, or would it have been funnier if they did like the cliched, he goes right in like Devil Goes Down to Georgia?
I think that would have been cool because it would have combined both the things that he's doing, and it still would have been off-putting to a French restaurant atmosphere. So I could have written the show better. That's what I'm saying. There's nobody investing more time in this show than us here at Surf Dudes with Attitude. And I want to be acknowledged for that and validated.
I would argue that was probably the original script, but they couldn't afford the money to pay the royalties on it.
I mean, that went down to Georgia is literally in everything. It's probably the equivalent of buying a Tony to get that song in any of your media, okay?
It's the equivalent of auctioning someone off for charity in television or movies.
That's what I'm saying. It's like $35 could probably get you good. So, hey, Dave, we want to quiz you on what you think the next episode is about based on your extensive knowledge of this show and just the title of the next episode. I need you to tell me what the plot is, all right?
So real quick, is there any chronology to the episodes whatsoever?
Not really.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
So that's the Tiff and Jake thing is like non-linear. There's an episode where the sister comes back, but it's just because they show the episodes out of order. So no, we don't know how much time has elapsed. We've never seen an outside shot. We think they're in a bomb shelter. So no. So you're going to have to tell me the plot and all the character names and all that, all right? So I hope you're paying attention. It's called Rebel Without a Clue.
Rebel Without a Clue. Okay. Well, I'm going to venture to say that the rebel is the band manager. And he cluelessly tries to book the band at a new place, but he fails, and some malarkey happens along the way with our friends and favorite characters. That's all I got.
We're gonna go to the judges on that one, George. What do you give him?
I'm going to award half credit.
Okay. Because
he got Sly right.
Yes.
Also just to screw with Zach because he's terrible at it.
Zach is pretty bad at this game, and he's seen like every episode. So, George, you want to tell us what it's about? See how far Dave was off.
Rebel Without a Clue. Sly decides to crack down and study to impress a tough teacher. But because he's never taken school seriously in the past, when he aces the test, the teacher thinks he cheated. Meanwhile, Sam and Tiffany argue over which one of them should get to sing the lead vocals on the band's new song.
So, I like your episode better, Dave, to be honest.
I was pretty far off, and I definitely didn't have the...
You don't deserve half credit?
Maybe a quarter credit. I did get Sly. I knew that Sly was going to be the rebel.
But
as soon as they said Without a Clue, I was like, well, that's probably...
But have you ever done really well on a test in school and the teacher didn't believe you?
Yes.
Because you have that cheating face.
Yeah, you look like malarkey. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole plot of Stand and Deliver. So maybe that's what they're taking inspiration from. I actually would have really liked Sly to like book them at a new venue. That gives me a music boner here.
I should have known that wouldn't be it, because if you haven't ever seen them outside of the set that you've seen every episode in, then there's no way they could.
They're not going to build a new music venue
in the
bunch. I would really hope they do at some point. Like, we're really hoping that we see it like a nightclub at some point where they're playing, because otherwise they just play like Sweet 16 parties and graduation parties and shit like that. So anyway, thanks for playing. There'll be a consolation prize. But that's gonna be next week's episode, Rebel Without a Clue, episode 16. And we'll be tackling that next week. But so that's gonna do it here for us. It's Surf Dudes with Attitude. Check us out at surfdudeswithattitude.com. Patrons, stick around for the encore episode. That's also on CaliforniaDreamsPodcast.com, and write us at surfdudeswithattitude@gmail.com. Dave, thanks for coming on. We're going to talk to you a little more about your band, so please check that out. Thank you for sitting through this episode.
Yeah.
I hope you get a better one next time, but until then, everybody drive carefully. This is Pete from New York City. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Go check out Black Lung.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, both of you are musicians. Dave, you wanna give a little background? What instruments you play? You already said you're in Black Lung, and I'm sorry, do not remember the first band.
That's cool. Def Scene is so.
Def Scene.
Yeah, so I'm a guitar player, and Def Scene is an original project that I started, like maybe 15 years ago or more now.
Yeah.
Just like right when I started college, pretty much, linked up with Eric, who is the bass player of that band. And we've just been writing kind of obscure instrumental rock music for as long as that. So yeah,
That's
my
awesome.
background is really just I started learning guitar in high school, and I just kind of picked it up naturally. I was sort of against getting any formal training for a while until I got good enough to realize how stupid that was.
Yep.
And then I took some music theory classes and took some lessons. So
when was that in college that you decided to do that? Or because like I'm 40 and it's like, all right, dude, maybe you should take lessons again and like take it seriously this time. Because
I mean, I don't know. I've thought about going back and getting lessons again, just from another new person, just to just to learn more stuff. But really, for me, I think like the music theory that I learned in college, I was always like intimidated by like, oh, well, I don't want to box myself in with like,
right.
with learning all this theory stuff, and like, I got to just go by ear. But really, I think just that, I'm not like amazing at music theory, but just having a framework of music theory, just it kind of opens up for you to be able to communicate what you already know, just by ear, you know what I mean? So it doesn't box you yet. Yeah.
It's really funny how embarrassed people get about it too, because like it was what 20, 30 years before Billy Joe Armstrong admitted to having singing lessons, and it's like, dude, you're like in one of the biggest bands around. You're ashamed of taking lessons in the thing that you do for a career,
right?
Well,
yeah, I mean,
I'm still there. Like, just doing this wedding shit this week. I don't know how to read music. I don't know theory. And I really wish I did, because I'm having to transpose these fucking keys. And I'm like, I'm having to look up how to do it. And I wish I just had the framework to just be like, oh, I'm just taking it up a step and a half. That's it. Figure it out. So I'm on the precipice of doing that myself.
I mean, honestly, like, I'm not ever writing sheet music. I can if with push comes to shove, but really all I mean is just getting a basic knowledge of like, relative major and minor, what the different modes are and stuff like that will just it's really helpful, because you already write really complex stuff, Pete. I mean, you're doing all sorts of, dominant chords and seventh chords and all sorts of stuff.
I just don't know what they're called.
Right. Yeah. If you don't know, just call it an expensive chord.
Oh my God. You should see that you need like a fucking cryptographer to see these charts that I'm working on for this wedding. Like, it's whatever shape my fingers are making because I'm having to play like diminished ninth chords and shit like that, depending on the song. And I'm like, I don't know. If I wrote down diminished ninth, I have no clue what that is. So I'm just like, this looks like a T. So just put a T next to it. And that's embarrassing to me that like I still don't know how. I guess when I was in my 20s, I was like, it's a badge of honor, you know, like I don't want to be boxed in and whatever. Yeah. But now, like, I wish I would have taken it more seriously. I did take some theory in college, but
I mean, the thing
I
is,
didn't stick with it.
It's not like you're getting worse at bass or something by not
right.
learning it, you know, and like it's just an added thing to help at some point. So it's not like it's too late. You know, it's too late for you, Pete. Sorry, you can't learn.
I would
write chords.
I'm too old. I'm losing my boyish good looks, man. The time's ticking. I should learn a new skill.
It's not like you have anything to be ashamed of. You still play bass better than most anyone else. Like I would still put you up against Les Claypool. You know,
you would. I've never felt that. I always think imposter syndrome is so intrinsically linked with not knowing how to read music and not having taken lessons. And I really wish that would not be my narrative. I wish I would have taken lessons a while ago, but it feels like it's too late. But anyway,
there's a lot of people though that can't write anything original to save their life, but they're like really good at performing other people's stuff like very accurately. And you know, I would take a Bob Dylan type over a a Steve Vai or something. You know what I mean?
That's half the people in my band, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but like you have cellists, like string players, they're just programmed to play other people's music. They can't write. So we've had some great fill-in cellists that have joined us, but they're like, if it's not all charted out perfectly, I'm not going to be able to. I can't improvise on the spot. I don't write. So
do you think that's a training thing? Because like for stringed instruments, you're training to play in an orchestra or a symphony. Like it's almost like you're pigeonholed into doing classical music.
Yeah, they have to. And I've had cellists who my one cellist, Brian, he was with it for 5 years. And like there was only like 2 or 3 songs that he like had fully memorized, but he'd always needed charts in front of him. He always needed sheet music. Even if he was no longer needing it, it's just like this thing that's like built into them. They have to have it written in front of them. And like, I was jealous of that. Cause like I all these songs that I'd written, none of them are charted. And so when I forgot how to play them, they're like gone in the ether. So that was the other part of not knowing how to read music. I can't transcribe anything and keep it for historical sake.
But you can record it. So
yeah, but that's not going to help me. I'd have to record myself like close up playing it with like a microscope to be like, what did I do here? And then my small little girl hands, they just like, it doesn't, I can't tell what I'm playing.
You have to make your own YouTube videos, like how to play bass YouTube videos just for your reference.
I fret. I have an early YouTube channel from college that I am scared to look at because of the mistakes that I probably made in this. I had like a crazy mohawk and like a long braided goatee, and I would play like classical stuff on my bass. And like, I know it probably sounds like shit, you know, but I have been locked out of that YouTube account for so long, and it's just there collecting numbers and hate comments. So
I don't know. I feel like as you get older though, you go through, like, at least I have, like, I for a long time was like, I don't want to play that song from like 10 years ago. That song sucks. Like, I sucked ass back then. Yeah. But now, like, if I go back and listen to old, you know, Def Scene stuff, or even stuff from like high school bands that, you know, I have on like some CDs and stuff randomly, I'll be like, you know, that was pretty good for back then, you know. And it's kind of like it's almost nostalgic at this point or something.
Sure.
And you can see, you're like, okay, so I haven't plateaued completely as a musician.
Yeah.
I have gone somewhere.
Do you find that, like, and I don't know if you find this too, but like, I found that the people love that shit. And like, we have a song called Archaeopteryx, and it's the first song we ever wrote. Like, even before any of the people in my band, like, that song's almost like 20 years old at this point. And like, it's the one at festivals that people go crazy for. And I'm like, this one? Like, it's so, like, there's no semblance. Like, it's cool, but it's just like part, and bookended kind of thing. So
Yeah, I mean,
but people love it, and I was ready to retire it so many like band members ago, like this many drummers ago, this many cellists ago, but like people like ask for it, and I'm like, okay, I love playing it. But yeah, I guess, but it's like we don't write like that anymore. But I guess people still like that thing because it's just like jam band people fucking love it because it's what's called plateauing basically, which I think Dave and I were talking about at one point. We played a festival and then some guy was on acid and he didn't know that I was in the band that he had just seen. He's like, I didn't like that band that much because they didn't plateau enough. And that's like when you build and then you fucking playing out
jam. Yeah.
And then you just go back to the most predictable 3-chord bullshit. And that's why he didn't like us because like we take it in different directions. So
that's when you dance, man.
You're right. That's exactly it. And like I want to be easy to dance to, but yeah, I guess when you're playing in like odd time signatures or it doesn't happen. It confuses people.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I definitely understand, like, I mean, there's Def Scene songs, like our oldest stuff is probably the stuff that people like the most. And some of that's like the most straightforward and like, I don't know, more like alternative rock, I guess. Yeah. And, and for me, I'm like, I'm bored by this song. I wrote it years ago. I don't really want to play it anymore. And so you're tempted to dive back into that stuff for audiences. But then I take like that moral standpoint of like, no, I want to play what I want to play. And that's like being a true musician.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I find myself like, well, shit, like no one's bobbing their head to this song. Why is that? And then you're like, oh, it's like in 11/16 or something. And it's literally incomprehensible. And it's like, this is fun for me to play. It's like an exercise. But like, at what point is it just like, am I just jerking off in front of a bunch of people?
Dude, it's all you balance your creativity and your crowd. And like I've had some shitty drummers in the past that they're like, no, I want to play it so it's interesting for me. And I'm like, yeah, great, but 4 on the floor would sound awesome at this part. Right. It might be boring for everybody here, but it's getting people into the music, and then they'll stick around for some of your more weird shit. So like,
also what I find too is like, being in both Black Lung and then also Def Scene, like being in Black Lung as like not the main songwriter and like kind of coming in and learning some of the riffs that, I wouldn't have written for Def Scene, but then I'm like, whoa, this sounds awesome. And it's like tempering the desire to just be constantly changing progressions and having total, guitar ADD the whole time. It's really effective. So it helps you become, I don't know, just changing gears and having a couple different ways of writing helped me kind of break out of the rut of writing overly complex stuff just for the sake of it, as opposed to like actually composing a song that is good,
Yeah, songs with like a cohesive narrative thought, like a complete thought, start to finish. That's what a friend of mine said. He's like, your songs are good and they're interesting and whatever, but like you lose people right away. Like you're trying to tell a story, and especially bands like ours that are instrumental, you have this added pressure to like make something hooky, make it accessible, but then have like melody. Tell a story while you're doing that melody. And I think so many instrumental bands kind of lose that. And like when I'm watching them, especially, like that's why I like post rock so much, because it's a slow burn. You actually are there, and it's about the feeling. Mm-hmm. But post rock can get really boring too, because it's that people take it and exploit that level of like, okay, here's a 12-minute song, and it's basically like you're watching a score to a film that has no visual component.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's hard to find that whatever that like narrative thread is to like make a song cohesive, especially when, like in bands like ours, where you're like, well, we don't want to dwell on this section for too long because it's just, like in Def Scene, it's just drum and bass and guitar. So like no one wants to hear the same riff the same way 8 times in a row. But it's like, actually sometimes that's really effective. Yeah. but my brain is always telling me no, like on to the next thing, and so
I don't know. Do you get that thing where like if you do a part 4 times, on the third time you're like, I gotta do something different with it? Like that third, it's always the third time. Yeah, and I was like, I gotta break out of that. Just do the part 3 times, you know. So anyway, George, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was going to say, but it's funny too because it will also come back around to bite you because like Explosions in the Sky. What was the album? The Earth Is Not a Cold Dead Place or Cold Dead Planet? Or
Cold Dead Place.
Yeah.
Love that album. Fantastic album. Listen to it all the time. I have all the Explosions in the Skies albums I need. You know, like
that's. I mean, listen, that's my favorite Explosions album, and it's the one that I bumped the most. It's the one I have on vinyl. It's the one I learned. I actually recently transcribed all 3 guitar and 1 bass part to Your Hand in Mine into 1 acoustic piece. And like, so I like did a deep dive on that. And that album in particular is so meaningful, but it's also at the same time, it's a great sleep album. Like I'll put that on just as much to sleep as I will when I'm like at my job setting up a bar or something. So, or in the car when we're driving and it's late night and my band is kind of drunk and they're passing out and I'm the one driving because I don't drink. So it's that I get what you're saying. You're like, I got Michael McDonald's greatest hits. I don't need all the other shit, you know?
Right. So I did have a question for you to switch gears a little bit. You were talking about how you're using backing tracks for your album. And this is something...
The wedding, yeah.
Right, the wedding. This is something I've been playing around with where I'm kind of looking for something like this. My one friend has one where you can program parts into it, so you can do the chorus and then switch over to the verse on the fly. I'm just curious, what piece of equipment are you using and how are you using it?
So for the backing tracks this week, I actually threw up like I used Facebook for the first time in a while for like personal reasons. I threw a post. I was like, hey, we're going to be using backing tracks. I'm a big sellout. What equipment do I need? And they're like, basically they said, if you're just playing backing tracks out of something, you just need an MP3 player, basically. So don't overcomplicate it. But now we have in-ear monitors because we're going to be under a tent. It's battery powered. And we're like, oh, should we get a click track then? Because sometimes it's hard to hear if it's outside. So now it's more complicated. Now you need an interface. And then you might need a DAW program. A DAW program is just like, it's a recording software. So we're troubleshooting that this week. As far as the thing you're talking about, like what would you need to do that? Like my advice, because technology has just far surpassed what I'm able to do, my advice is to get a looping pedal, because not only will it do that for you, that you can play this shit, but it will teach you rhythm, because you are the one that's setting the rhythm, because you are playing along and then it loops. That is how I cut my teeth. That is how I learned all of my rhythm, for good or bad. I'm not the best at rhythm because of that, because I've never used a quantizer. So, but I have to do it live. So like, if you fuck it up live, people are going to hear it. So that is the biggest motivator to get better at rhythm. So I would definitely suggest that. There are bigger, I mean, Dave he probably knows more about guitar stuff, but like some of the big boss looping stations, they will let you bank parts and go to verse and chorus kind of. It's for like buskers that just play guitar for hours and hours on end, and they're actually doing full pop songs instead of looping one part, stopping the loop, looping the chorus, and rinse and repeat. Like you can actually just bank parts.
Yeah, I love loop pedals. I mean, I've been playing with loop pedals for forever and ever. Nothing too complex, but if you wanted to do like backing tracks, like say you just wanted to have like a drum track and be able to switch between like certain parts, you could, I mean, with the way that, loop setups and like pedal board loop stations are these days, like you could very easily just dump a wave file onto the loop station and have that as your backing track and be able to trigger it on this part, that part. But there's also a whole ton of different like sequencers and samplers that are out there.
Right.
And I was using an Akai MPC for a little bit, just for some like samples and rhythmic things. That was pretty fun, but it was definitely like a tough learning curve just coming from someone who, so you play guitar, George? Is that your instrument or?
Very badly, yeah, but getting better.
Honestly, a loop station is a great way. You can get a really simple one too.
You get the single version of the loop pedal. It actually has drums built in. You can store up to like 300 or something loops. So like it's a lot. And then you get to the double pedal, and then you get to like the big 8 version one, and it's all the same loop station, but they all come with their own set of problems. And I guess it brings up the big debate, like where Dave and I are kind of on the front lines of like, is looping backing tracks, and are backing tracks lame while you're playing live? And we've played a lot of shows. We played a lot of shows together, and like I think maybe it was Acid Fight, that your one song that like had a very specific backing track that you were using, and like depending on wherever you were playing, if it wasn't loud enough, then kind of most of the point of the song is gone. So like it's another added thing that you are now considering every place that you play.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with Def Scene, I was, saving loops, and my whole thesis on it for a while at least was, well, if I want to have like a backing track, I want it to be like my guitar or as close to it as possible. So I don't want it to sound like some instrument that, has been studio added or something. I want it to sound like a real thing. And if I'm live looping, that's cool, but it's really tough. So sometimes we would just have a loop that would just be like a drone pretty much. That would be like, okay, this is just filling in some space. For the stuff that's in time, we could consider going down the road of like in-ear monitors, and then having click tracks, and then, have a MIDI syncable loop that you could hook up to the DAW. But then it's like, okay, we don't want to have computers on stage. We don't have the budget to be able to do that. And like, if we're opening up a first out of 3 bands and we're playing for 30 minutes, like I'm not going to spend time setting up all this craziness. Right. So
sound guy hates you.
It really just came down to like bringing an extra amp and having a loop station kind of plugged into that amp and aimed at the drummer, and having a good drummer who can keep in time with the loops. So that's kind of the route that we went with Def Scene. It worked out for the most part, I guess. But yeah, there's certainly times, Pete, where, and you've probably seen our shows where it's like, we can't hear the loop at all.
Yeah.
The drums are losing it, and the crowd can hear it in the front of house. But
so what do you do? What do you do? Because I rarely get to ask other people, like, so we don't have a quantizer. So sometimes like if I fuck up and the loops, it's either like I fucked up and the loop is like bad, or more often than not, it's just, it's buried in the mix and we're off. And like, so our drummer has now.
The thing is separating the sounds, right? Like separate your loop output from your main bass output.
We do, but like it's my setup's a little janky, so there is some overlap. My drummer has now just like watched me, like if he's feeling it's getting off, I will be doing the head nod thing, and that's how and as long as we get to like a certain part at the end, like our final song of the set, there's like a 4-minute looping part, and we're building on it the entire time, and then at the end, I'm distorted, Tara's loud. Sometimes it sounds amazing, and I don't know how, but whatever sound system we're using, it's like, oh, we can hear it. But other times, I've had to kill it. And just like on the beat, so it seems like this was planned. But do you ever just kill it, or do you just like ride it out in the sunset no matter what?
Occasionally, I'll just kill it. But sometimes that'll confuse like Brett if he's not able to hear it, because he's trying to, Brett's the drummer for Def Scene. He's like just a total animal, just totally natural at keeping in time to clicks and loops and all that.
Yeah.
But what I actually started doing is I started having my so I have like a 2 or a 3 pedal, a 3 button looper, and what I started doing is setting all of my loops as or one of the functions to be one shot. So that way, if the loop is like getting off, like say the drums are at a certain speed and then the loop is like lagging behind it, I can just hit it again at the 1.
It jumps it up. Okay.
Just restart it over and over. So sometimes you'll see me on stage just tapping my foot like to the beat.
Yep.
Actually just tapping on the loop to restart it at the right point, because we're playing, faster than the loop or slower than the loop. And I don't want to, force us to go faster or force the band to go slower.
That's what I do with, I have a stutter. We have a song that uses a stutter pedal, and like if it's not dead on, like, so I'm doing all these micro corrections the entire time, because before we were just like hoping for the best, and I'd hit it on the one, and then sometimes we'd be going like that fast, and then the other loop would be that fast. So you make it work, like, depending how often you play out live, and that's the big difference between bands that just do studio shit. You have months and months and months to make that sound perfect, but like live touring bands, every single night, different arena, you have to make that shit sound good, and you have to make it consistent.
Yeah, and I don't know, I think people appreciate like when things seem live, like not when they are fucked up, but when it sounds real and it doesn't sound like a DJ pre-programmed thing, or that you're playing.
It's the worst. It's still the worst when I see a band that, like, I know their set is going to be exactly 57 minutes every single night. And there's so many jam bands that are like that. I mean, first of all, that's a long time. Unless I really like your band, that's a long time to play. But these bands that they have the same set, everything's backing track, everything just sounds too crisp and too overproduced. And I'm like, half your instruments aren't on stage. I'd rather just see a kind of a stripped down version of it. So,
right.
I feel like I was ruined as a kid because I had a bunch of Nirvana imports, and I always liked the live stuff more than the album. Like, how do you ever come close to that?
Well, I mean, mistakes were a huge part of Nirvana's sound. So
yeah, true. Very true. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up. Dave, thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time, and thanks again.
Hey, thanks, George. Thanks for coming on, man. And
yeah, of course.
Servitude with Attitude, thanks for being a patron. You're awesome. Have a good night.
Bye.
This has been a Waning Moon production.